Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. And, you know, the people elected me on that.
All right, folks, buckle up, because we need to talk about Elon Musk fighter jets and a plot twist that smells like it came straight out of a Pentagon-themed episode of Black Mirror. So picture this. Elon, the self-anointed tech messiah, once said manned fighter jets were obsolete, straight-up fossils in the drone age. He entorched the F-35 program, called it the worst military investment in history, and we all clapped like it was gospel. But now, fast forward to today, and he's backing a brand new top-secret fighter jet called the F-47, under, you guessed it, Donald Trump. So, what happened, Elon? Was that just the ketamine tweeting, or are we watching another billionaire backflip into defense contractor cosplay? And oh yeah, Bill Maher called him out hard on live TV and Trump. Let's dive into the madness. This one's juicy, and trust me, you don't want to miss this one.
And finally, new rule: the Trump administration and its elite squad of Marvel Universe mutant budget Avengers known as Doge must tell us what happened to going after the military.
Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. And, you know, the people elected me on that.
Well, today they reported back on what they found when they checked the military, and it wasn't hundreds of billions or even billions. It was $580 million out of a defense budget of almost $900 billion. You know, when they were talking about shrinking the government, I said, yeah, great, but the acid test will be if they go after the biggest bloat of all, obsolete weapons programs. So I was hopeful when in November, Musk wrote on X, some idiots are still building manned jet fighters like the F-35. Manned fighter jets are obsolete in the age of drones. Please, in the name of all that is holy, let us stop the worst military value for money in history, that is the F-35 program. Exactly, Your Excellence. But today, Trump announced, we're building a new fighter jet, the F-47, and Trump said, we put in an order for a lot. We can't tell you the price. So what happened to fighter jets are obsolete in the age of drones? Was that just the ketamine talking?
So Elon Musk, tech overlord, Twitter X chaos agent, and wannabe Iron Man, once took to his platform to boldly declare that manned fighter jets were donezo. Obsolete. He roasted the F-35 like it owed him money. He said drones were the future, and the F-35 was the biggest military money pit in history. And honestly, we were kind of like, yeah, Elon, finally saying something smart. Even Bill Maher gave him props, called him Your Excellence, which, hilarious. But now, oh, now it gets spicy. The same Elon is suddenly giddy about this shiny new F-47 fighter jet, a mystery aircraft being built under Trump with a don't ask the price kind of energy. Like, really? The man who said manned jets were a waste is now helping push an even newer manned jet. You can't make this up. So, what is this? Is Elon having a change of heart, or just cashing in? Maher doesn't hold back, he throws shade and receipts. And let's be real, this reeks of hypocrisy, delusion, or maybe just another billionaire hedging his bets because there's government money involved. Elon once looked like he was trying to innovate the military-industrial complex. Now it looks like he just wants to own a piece of it. So either he forgot what he said, or he thinks we did.
Because I feel like you guys are purposefully avoiding the elephant in the room. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. The $2 trillion in waste that you originally said you could cut, yeah, you're not going to get there by firing mailmen and the guy who tells you to not lean over the rail at the Grand Canyon. According to Doge's own wall of receipts, after 2 months, they've only reached $35 billion in verifiable cuts across the whole government. Meanwhile, the fattest target to hunt savings from sits unmolested across the Potomac at the Pentagon, a place Eisenhower warned us was out of control in 1961. So, look, here's the federal budget. Here's the discretionary spending part, what we could cut. You mean there's barely a penny of waste in this half? I may not know how to code like Elon's nerd brigade, but I can read a fucking pie chart.
So when the Trump administration rolled in with their so-called budget avengers, they came in loud, proud, and ready to drain the swamp. You remember that slogan, right? The promise was massive. $2 trillion in government waste returning. At each cut, vaporized, we were told there'd be audits, receipts, and a brand new era of lean, mean governance. They even gave themselves a cool, meme-worthy nickname, Doge, because what better way to signal serious economic reform than naming your task force after a cryptocurrency mascot? But fast forward just a couple months, and what have they actually cut? Not 2 trillion. Not even a couple hundred billion. Nope. The grand total is 35 billion. That's it. Out of a nearly $6 trillion federal budget. That's less than a rounding error. That's like saying you're going to lose 100 pounds and bragging when you shed 2 ounces. You didn't cut the fat. You sneezed and dropped a penny. And here's where Bill Maher just goes for the jugular. He points out exactly what everyone else was hoping wouldn't be noticed. They didn't go after the real bloat. The elephant in the room, the one wearing camouflage and flying Black Hawk helicopters, is the Pentagon, and these so-called budget hawks won't lay a finger on it. It's the biggest pot of gold in the entire government, nearly $900 billion in annual spending, and it's somehow always considered untouchable. No matter the party in charge, no matter the economic conditions, defense spending is the sacred cow that never gets milked, let alone slaughtered. Instead of going after wasteful military projects, redundant agencies, or overpriced contractor schemes, the cuts came from places that barely register, like trimming back on park services, office supplies, and the poor guy making sure tourists don't fall into the Grand Canyon. Maher even jokes that the only people getting laid off are mailmen and national park employees, and he's not wrong. What we're seeing here is classic performative politics, the kind where leaders boast about massive change, but when the lights come up and the cameras roll, they're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The bold campaign promises have turned into quiet excuses. The swamp is not drained, it's just been rebranded.
Last week, Congress appropriated the money to take us through to October, and there was plenty of belt tightening, but not defense. Oh no, that can never be touched. Good times, bad times, Republicans in charge, Democrats in charge. It's amazing. The right and the left in this country despise each other, but they do agree on 2 things. 1, keep an eye on the Jews, because they're always up to something. And 2, the defense budget is always perfect, like the Virgin Mary. In fact, it's always okay if it gets bigger. It's like a fat Virgin Mary. Our defense budget is higher than the next 9 countries combined. It's more than triple that of our biggest adversary, China, and 8.5 times that of our closest ally, Russia. The Pentagon itself says it has 19% more bases than it needs. Wouldn't it be efficient to close some of those? The 750 bases in 80 countries we have around the world, we need every one. No place to fire up the old chainsaw there. Vroom, vroom. The Air Force has 51 golf courses. The Marines have 10. Guam has 2. Nothing? No vroom, vroom for that? An internal watchdog once found Boeing marked up the price of a helicopter by 177,000%. Not 177%, 177,000%. That is almost as bad as my mechanic.
Let's talk about the one thing in Washington that somehow manages to stay bulletproof, the military budget. You know, that sacred cow grazing on $900 billion a year while everyone else is told to tighten their belts and clip coupons. Bill Maher doesn't just tiptoe around it, he swings the spotlight right onto it, and for good reason. Here's the thing. Every time someone talks about shrinking the size of government, it's always the same script. Cut welfare, lash education, freeze hiring for park rangers. But when it comes to the Pentagon, silence. Crickets. Suddenly everyone turns into a budget monk, whispering that nothing should be touched lest the gods of national security smite us. Maher calls out the absurdity. The US defense budget is almost $900 billion. That's not just a big number. That's more than the next 9 countries combined. Let that sink in. We could cut the budget in half, and we'd still be outspending Russia, China, and most of Europe combined. Then there's the Pentagon itself admitting it has 19% more bases than it needs. That's almost 1/5 of its infrastructure, by its own calculation, just sitting there, taking up space, burning money, serving no strategic purpose. We've got 750 military bases in 80 different countries. You heard that right. We've basically set up a Starbucks of war around the globe, and we're paying rent on every single one. And then it gets worse. Maher drops some jaw-droppers, like the 51 golf courses owned by the Air Force. The Marines? 10 of their own. Even Guam gets 2. Apparently, defending democracy requires a well-maintained 18-hole. That's your tax dollars teeing off right there. An internal watchdog once caught Boeing marking up a helicopter by 177%, not 177, not 1,000, 177,000%. That's like going to buy a coffee and being charged $8,000 for a latte. And somehow, no one went to jail. In fact, they probably got a bonus and a thank you note for boosting stock prices. The takeaway is simple. When Maher says the military budget is untouchable, he's not being cute, he's being accurate. This is the one part of the government where waste isn't a scandal. It's standard operating procedure, and yet nobody wants to go there. Not Democrats, not Republicans. It's the only truly bipartisan issue in America. Defend the defense budget at all costs. And that's the scam. Politicians love to play tough on spending when it means gutting food stamps or public broadcasting. But when it comes to billion-dollar planes that don't fly right or ghost bases in countries we forgot we were in, suddenly it's all about patriotism and protecting the troops. Never mind that the troops themselves could probably use better housing, health care, and mental health services. But sure, let's keep the golf courses. So yeah, Maher is right to call it out. If you're serious about cutting government waste, the Pentagon is the buffet. But until someone's willing to pick up a fork and carve into that bloated beast, all this budget-cutting talk is just political cosplay. A costume party where nobody actually wants to do the hard work. Thanks for watching, y'all. If you made it this far, you're officially part of the smart crowd that actually wants to know where your tax dollars are going. Salute to you. If you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button, drop a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more no fluff, straight talk political commentary with a side of sarcasm. We're just getting started, and trust me, you're going to want to be here for what's coming next. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.